Back, everybody, to today's edition of PHLY Union Podcast. I am JP Zapata, joined as always with Renee Washington. Guys, we got the tea. We got the chisme here. We're going to talk about some rumors here with our Philadelphia. Nothing set in stone. We have a trade to talk about here as well. We'll be joined by a special guest. Hope everyone enjoyed their snow day and are recovering after an Eagles playoff loss. We won't talk too much about that here today. Well, Renee, what's going on? How are you today on this beautiful Tuesday?
I forgot about those birds. Listen, I'm great because, you know, we're that much closer to the start of the spring, which means we're that much closer to the Union already had preseason kicked off. Soccer, MLS soccer is getting started soon. I'm looking forward. I'm not looking back anymore because what birds?
Give Philadelphia the optimism they need. Let's move forward.
Yeah, I don't have any optimism left in this tank, but the optimistic side of me is like, at least we can move on and it's over.
That's how I feel. Right now, I'm like focused on the Sixers and the Flyers, but once it's summertime.
See, that's the other thing. We still have them.
Yeah. Once it's summertime, I'm all Phillied up, I'm all unioned up, and I'm ready to go. But that's the life of Philly sports fan. We don't always have it pretty smoothly. We're not Boston over here. So take the wins over we can, guys. Should be a fun one.
Yes. What's up, Marsha Lynch? Welcome in. Nice to have you here. Hello, everybody. I know I saw some people waiting for the show to get started. It's a great day, JP. We've got a lot to talk about today.
We do. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. I think today's gonna be a fun one because we don't have like set in stone news. We don't have like an actual breaking. Like obviously last episode we talked about Kai. We don't have anything crazy like that, but there are some developing things. And so for the Union fan right now who's scratching their head is, what's going on with our team? Are we buying players? Well, you may be scratching your head a little bit more after today's talk.
Yeah, because listen, there's been a lot of rumors. There's a lot going on the market. There's some news. So yeah, right now with the Union, it still is a matter of, okay, what's next? What's next? Where do we even begin? I guess Daniel Gazdag has to be the first one.
Yeah. So this was a report here that came out. We found today here. Well, first off, we need to first discuss that on Instagram. This was before the report, but on Instagram, Daniel Gazdag did put out it was a repost from his athletic trainer, I guess his personal trainer over in Hungary. Mm-hmm. And it was clear that Gazdag was in Hungary. Now, the thing is that we're not sure if that was taken yesterday, if that was taken prior, because it's always, these days.
Right, you never know what to pick.
The case.
Correct.
But from what we see, he's not in Clearwater right now. So we also had this report that apparently the Union would be open to a potential loan this January window to Sheffield Wednesday for Daniel Gazdag. Obviously, that kind of grabbed everyone's attention because everyone's under the assumption we're still buying. And I threw that tidbit at the end of last show that I don't know if that per se may happen. But this was juicy because if we're thinking about what's going to happen with this team, people are thinking about buying. So this one's a loan deal to Sheffield Wednesday, potentially. This is all potentially. So, I mean, I guess this is our top goal scorer, our top piece in our attack. And now we're talking about loaning him off. So I think a lot of Union fans would like to know what's happening. What's going on?
Yeah, I mean, so we have the tweet that dropped as well. I know if you have a moment to share that, perfect. This is the tweet that started circulating, had everybody wondering, okay, we've been talking about Willian and Gazdag, let's add Daniel Gazdag back into the mix. We always have known there was potential that Daniel Gazdag would move on and would not stay with the Union. But when this tweet came out, I know, JP, you and I were texting about it, like, what does this mean? What does this mean moving forward? But yeah, it says, for those that are listening on podcast platforms, Joe Cran tweeted out, understand that Hungarian attacker Daniel Gazdag is a name that has been put forward to hashtag SWFC, which is Sheffield Wednesday, as they consider options for the January window, led to believe he could be available on loan. And then his stats, that he scored 15 goals for midfield last season, and there's an article that also goes with that as well. So for Gazdag right now, he's a name that we've talked about as a potential player that we could see no longer with the Union moving forward, whether it's through a loan or whatever actual deal is worked out, that he'd be shopped around. So when this dropped, and on the heels of what we heard and talked about last week with Willian and Gazdag mentioning he's looking to make a big career move by July, it just is like, okay, here we go again. Here's another player, one of the other leading scorers on the team that has, essentially had a rumor come out that he may no longer be here. I actually would. To see Travman's comments in the chat, I actually agree. Well, a point. You're saying Gazag's not that good. I was just going to say I would rather have Willian than Daniel if I had to choose at this point, just based on production, based off of consistency. But I think for me, the first thing I thought was, what does this mean? Who else is possibly offering Daniel Gazdag? What other offers are out there? What other clubs are looking to make a move? I know, Jose, you're saying you can confirm he was not there for the 4 p.m. training session in Florida yesterday. He's not the only one that's not there. Let's just preface it with that too, or we don't know for sure, but potentially there could be somebody else for the Union that's not at preseason right now or down in Clearwater. Just a lot of question marks is left me with, essentially.
Yeah. I mean, with this situation in particular, I think what throws it off is that, look, I think in a realistic world, I think that the Union could find a replacement for Daniel Gazdag and not miss him per se. It's just, and it's weird because we're talking about the January transfer period, which, as you all know, is the all season for the MLS. So if we're talking about getting rid of Gazdag right now, that wouldn't make sense because now we're going to bring in a 10. We don't have like a backup guy. I know we have this whole plan about Joaquin Torres, but we don't have a concrete plan if Gazdag is gone. So I think this is just all speculation. Sheffield Wednesday may be interested. Gazdag may be interested in going over to Europe again as well, especially to one of those bigger leagues. And let's all remember, Hungary has had a nice little resurgence here. I mean, they qualified for Euros. It's a nation that's trending upwards as far as a soccer nation. But this rumor just caught everyone by surprise. And of course, the fact that he's not down in Clearwater obviously raises speculation. But also, Bruno Martinez is apparently in Venezuela. He put the picture up on his story. He's in Maracaibo right now. So are we going to start speculating on that one as well? So it is tough right now. And to Dan brings up a good point right here that I also saw as well, because this whole like notion of like, oh, why would he play there? Or the other side of it, the fan of Sheffield Wednesday be like, why would we go after an MLS player? Guys, the fact of the matter, these are the facts. Daniel Gazdag 2 years ago was an MVP candidate in this league, despite the fact he was getting disrespected. All right. He was one of the leading goal scorers in this league. And on the other hand, listen, Sheffield Wednesday, no disrespect, but it is a championship side, all right? So, I mean, MLS and championship are pretty comparable. Like, I find that whole thought process so interesting. Like, everyone is always trying to say their league is better. But in reality, guys, like, they're not that far off. But this is an interesting story.
I think the issue is Sheffield Wednesday, currently as of today, sitting 22nd in their league for the EFL championship. Like, this is a club this is a club that's struggling. It's like, I think similar to what we talked about with previous rumors and discussions, it's always like, if a player is making a move, it should be a move up.
I agree.
And this doesn't feel like a move up, but it also just feels like, to me, it's Sheffield Wednesday saying they're interested in Daniel Gazdag. If I had heard a rumor the reverse saying he's interested in them, then I'd be confused. But I think, to your point, Dan, if someone like Sheffield Wednesday, who's sitting in 22nd place right now in standings out of 24, which is clearly at the bottom, guys, if they are looking to improve their club, they're 6-4 right now. They've got 6 wins, 4 draws, and 17 losses in their 27 games. They could probably use someone like Daniel Gazdag to help their club out, because they have a need for scoring goals. They've given up 44 goals. They've scored 21. So that's not a step up for him, but it would be a step up for them.
For sure.
So that's the other side of it is, okay, understandably, to Dan's point in the chat, it doesn't make sense for Daniel Gazdag to go from the Union, who are at least a playoff team, top team in the MLS, to a way below 500, bottom of the standings Sheffield Wednesday team. And that's not a club that when I heard it jumped off the page at me that, SWFC, cool.
Oh, yeah, everyone knows Sheffield Wednesday.
Yeah, like, what? I'm like, Sheffield Wednesday sounds like a typo. I just thought of like the Sheffields from The Nanny, the show that I used to, I don't know if you guys used to watch
another
The Nanny
show
with
that
Fran
Renee's
Drescher.
going to teach us about here today, guys.
But I'm like, are we talking about the Sheffields from The Nanny? But no, I do think overall it's just a rumor. I don't see this as anything threatening. I don't think the correlation, like people start connecting the dots. He's not in Clearwater at preseason. He's getting rumors about Sheffield Wednesday. That means Daniel Gazdag's leaving. And he could still be leaving. That's still on the table. But I think what it shows is Daniel Gazdag is getting offers from clubs outside the MLS. He has some ambition to play outside the MLS and return back to maybe a Hungary or just a European club in general. And so it's something to keep an eye on. Now, the question for the Union becomes, if you know you're potentially losing Daniel Gazdag and or Willian Carranza, now what?
Yeah.
How do you fill that void offensively? What's the next steps for getting this group to fill those shoes? Even despite Daniel Gazdag's up and down season, you lose him. You've got Willian Carranza trying to make a big career move in July, as he said. That's concerning overall.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think for the summer, that definitely brings a concern here because if Willian is eyeing a July transfer, and this is honestly like the first, I wouldn't say concrete, but we actually have a club that is linked to a team. I think a couple years ago, we had like a slight rumor where a Premier League team was looking at Daniel Gazdag, but we never had like a clarification what team that was. So this is like the first time we really got a team connected here to Gazdag. So what does that mean here for the summer? And I think for the Union, you can't afford to lose both of these guys if you have aspirations to get back to MLS Cup. One of them does have to go. And like we talked about Carranza, you need to have that backup plan set up right away if you're going to part ways from a Daniel Gazdag or a Willian Carranza. And so that's the other concern here for the fan base.
So you think one has to go?
Well, I mean, I definitely think that Carranza's value can only go up so high, right? Like, this is a kid that since beginning of last year, I feel like he's been linked to teams. And so after a certain while, you don't want him to sit here too long because then you run into the case where, you know, values fluctuate and then you're going to be stuck with him. And I think there is value for Carranza right now. So I think it's better suited that they do find the value. I get it. Everyone wants to win. Everyone wants the championships and they see Carranza and Gazdag and what they do. But the good teams, unfortunately, we're not the Premier League. And that's the reality. We're not the Premier League. We're not going to get the best players. But that doesn't mean you can't sustain success. I mean, you just saw what happened with FC Cincinnati. They're going to have to go through some changes here this year. And that's the challenge. You got to keep finding those pieces. And that's the tough part, the scouting and the development. And that's what the Union have to continue doing because, unfortunately, Renee, that's been their bread and butter the past couple of years.
Yeah, that development piece has been huge. I know, Travman, you're talking about believing that some of the younger players coming in from the U17 side look very promising. They definitely do. We'll get into some of those. Again, welcome in as you guys are dropping in the conversation. Hit that thumbs up button. Join the chat. Dan, Travman, everybody else, Jose, whoever's here tuning in. Because there's definitely some other names, and we'll get into some of them, specifically Cavan Sullivan, that are promising looking forward for the Union. But at the end of the day, it also comes down to you have to hope that these young players can step in and fill the shoes. And you look at someone like Nate Harrell and Jack McGlynn, who we obviously talk about a lot because they're two prime examples of players that they're young and we're seeing from one season to the next the progression, but it takes time.
Yeah, I get
versus,
that.
you know, Daniel Gazdag and Willian Carranza, who may frustrate us at times, might be inconsistent at times, but they're at least already there.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know what you're going to get from a lot of these, you know, homegrown players and academy players and the development side. You have to hope that they make that jump. You have to hope that they physically can keep up. They can keep up with the speed of the game. There's a lot of other factors with that. So it definitely, to me, is concerning for the fact that if you're going to lose at least one of them, I'd rather be Gazdag. I know Travman said it. Dan's also saying in the chat. Oh, no, he's saying they're not. Excuse me, I read that wrong. The Union are not a title contender without Gazdag. Okay, interesting take. See, I do feel like he is so inconsistent. And this past season was pretty frustrating to watch because he just disappeared at times. So once upon a time, without a heartbeat, I'm saying yes to that. But I also wonder if it's the system and that the Union need to change their formation, the personnel, the way they're playing to be able to get him more involved, because it felt like there were times he was just going so many stretches, so many possessions without touching the ball. That's why I'm kind of more on the Willian Carranza train of if I had to choose one. But ideally, I'd like to keep both and add. I don't want to have to replace. I'd like to keep both of them and add a piece is what I would want to do.
I don't necessarily would want to do a loan deal, but I was on the lines, and that's what I want to ask everyone here. Like, granted, we definitely would need a backup plan if you do sell Gazdag, but if we did sell Gazdag, like, how much would we actually miss it? Going back to our Kevin Kincaid episode, we talked about that 2020 season. When we had BA running as that 10, that was flawless because that was the system we wanted to run, that high press, and you saw how important he was as the engine in that counterattack. And so someone along the lines of that, someone who's multifaceted, Gazdag at times does feel like a one-trick pony. He's not per se the one that creates, more like a Marco Fabian, where he does create for his own, and sometimes that does create for others too, because when you are that dangerous from that spot, you're going to bring up center backs. That CDM, that 6, is going to have more an eye on you, and that opens up things for your forwards. And so, if Gazdag does leave, I don't think that would hurt per se. Obviously, you need to find that replacement, but then you can find that 10 that probably would better fit this team. Gazdag goal production, obviously, I'm not going to take that away from him, but I'm just saying, probably could find a better fit at that 10 there.
I am not a huge fan of Daniel as a 10. And I like him as a player. Yeah, I just think that exactly as you mentioned, I feel like he's a little bit too reactive. And you have to have a 10 that just goes. They have a nonstop engine. Most times when you look at the field that a player covers based on position, a 10 is supposed to be just kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
Sometimes even defensively too, like working back to check back to either help defensively or even checking back to be an option in transition. Like your 10 needs to be someone that just is nonstop a pest all over the field. That's the role. They're not tied to just being in the middle. It's not a traditional like 4-4-2 where your center middies just stay central. Your 10's supposed to be making diagonal runs, overlapping runs, checking back, showing wide. Being the highest player sometimes on the pitch, just literally all over the place. So for me,
looking to create, and
just
no matter where,
create and just go.
Exactly.
And I feel like so many times you watch him, and I'm like, where did you go? Like I don't know where. To be honest, I think he's just more of a true forward. He should be someone that he's a final third creator, makes some nice crafty passes and little runs here and there, but he's not someone that your offense should be running through. So I personally like him. Yeah, I know Dan's saying more as an 8 than a 10. He's not someone that's going to be able to he's not an enormous defensive piece either. So that's why I just feel like he's just got to be higher up the park, more of that target player that you're playing off of, not through.
Yeah.
So
I disagree with the 8. I think you got to pull more forward. I think he's like a false 9.
Yeah, I think he's got to be
that
a 9.
holding 9 or that holding forward there. I think he has to be integral in the attack. When you're an 8, like you're running a lot, you got to play defense, and that's been his problem. He doesn't play much defense there. So if you're looking to keep him on and you're trying to get the most out of him, it wouldn't hurt to probably try that out. But obviously,
I just think if he's able to, he likes very creative small game. So anything where he's the target, you're bouncing off of him. He's able to combine quick 1-2s. Quick little flick passes to Chapman saying the heel passes and losing the ball. But he likes those types of plays. He's not someone that wants to stretch the field. He wants to keep everything kind of small and
exactly.
In his wheelhouse and stuff like that. So that's my thought on where Daniel Gazdag should go. I don't know about Willian Carranza, but I do agree with you that if we're going to consistently keep hearing that he's interested in moving outside the MLS, or at least clubs have interest in their interested in paying him a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
At a certain point, you do almost just wonder, okay, will he just walk? And now you start to plan for the future versus always wondering if he's halfway in, halfway out the door.
Yeah.
So that's a concern to me. But where it's never a concern, JP? Factor meal kits. Factor meal kits is a great job as you are trying to plan out your meals each and every week of providing you fresh food right to your door. And it just takes the stress out of meal prep. Any sort of questions of what's for lunch, what's for dinner. I hate that question every day. What should I have for breakfast? If you don't have if you have the concern, I should say, of wondering what you're going to be eating, or you need to get to the grocery store, or you need to figure out what you're going to plan around your meals, don't worry about that cooking fatigue anymore. Over at Factor Meal Kits, they've got over 35 meals to choose from. It's not just meals though. They also provide you with snacks, smoothies, all types of options, as well as a variety of different plans that fit whatever your lifestyle is. Keto, calorie smart, vegan, veggie, a lot of options there for you as well. So over at Factor Meal Kits, they're giving you crafted meals, dietitian approved, delivered, like I said, right to your door, where they can allow you to just have less stress when you're planning out your weeks. So whether it's a special occasion meal and a gourmet plus meal, as they call it, or just wanting to have a nice, delicious, fresh smoothie, over at Factor Meal Kits, they can help that out. So they can provide you with meals, and you can also change those meals. You can have 4 to 18 meals per week. It's flexible. If you need to change it, you need to reschedule the timing of when that meal is being delivered or the day. Factor Meal Kits has all that covered as well. So head to factormeals.com/union50 and use code union50 to get 50% off. Again, that's union50 at factormeals.com/union50 to be able to get 50% off of your purchase today. You won't regret it, especially when you have the ease of flavorful, nutritious meals that you're getting delivered right to your doorstep. Cold pressed juices, smoothies, snacks, energy bites, high protein, veggie sides, and much more to keep you energized throughout the frantic days.
Absolutely. And with that, let's also talk to you about our other friend, our other sponsor at Mortgage CS. Mortgage CS stands for Mortgage Concierge Service, a white glove service. Mortgage CS is an independent mortgage broker based right here in Philadelphia. They give you full control of the lenders they work with, and they are available 24/7. We are here to educate and empower our clients, and we are here to help our clients obtain ultra competitive rates. We compare rates between multiple lenders to find a deal that works best for you. Our top priority is your financial big picture, not our bottom line. We are to provide exceptional customer service, 24/7 availability from their two owners, Alec and Ben. We help you win in a competitive market by calling the listing agents, reviewing, and we help you win a competitive market by offers and highlighting your positive credentials and our stellar reputation here. Guys, it's tough finding a home and tough going through a mortgage company. I went through that a year and a half ago. It is a long process. It is extremely stressful and extremely excruciating as well. So Mortgage CS has you guys covered all the time. When you hear the word mortgage, think of Mortgage CS and think of Ben and Alec. Save Ben's telephone number while you're at it, 267-391-7425. If you're watching live on YouTube, you have it right here at the bottom of the screen. If not, if you're listening to podcasts, again, the number is 267-391-7425. A lot of you guys in the comment section are wondering if the union are going to spend money. Well, text Ben, ask him. Let's see what he thinks if the union are going to spend money as well. Email Ben at ben@mortgagecs.com. You can call him or text him at any time. And then again, check them out at mortgagecs.com/PHLY to get started here. This advertisement is not a commitment to lend or extend credits. Mortgage CS is an equal housing opportunity mortgage broker. All loans are subject to a credit approval. Certain restrictions may apply. Company NMLS ID 1464766. Visit mortgagecs.com for more information. That's the other MLS, ladies and gentlemen. We still want that website back, guys. Can we have that website? MLS, no one looks up.
I know. Every once in a while, I'm like, this stinks that the MLS website is not as easy. It's not just MLS.com. But as we were talking about, there have been some other things that have happened around the union. Of course, preseason began. Friendship bracelets were being passed out day one of preseason. It was also Ty Baribo's birthday.
Yes.
So a great, exciting start to preseason. And then with that, we heard of a trade as the union traded with NYCFC. Now, in that trade, the union acquired up to $800,000 in allocation money from New York City FC. The news broke, and Andres Pera had traded in that deal to NYCFC. The midfielder is traded, and with that, the union received $350,000 in 2024 GAM, and then also with that, $300,000 for 2025, an additional $150,000 if certain performance conditions are met that they have in that general allocated money. So some great news, and the guaranteed monies up front, $650,000. Lots of numbers that I'm throwing out there, but to me, when I was reading all of this, first of all, I liked what Ernst Tanner was saying. The usual, thank you to Andres for his contributions. Best of luck to him. This is the best move for the player at this time for his continued development and to be able to maintain his meaningful role with NYCFC. We had talked about Andres briefly on the show before because, we didn't expect him to be someone that was coming back to the union. But for the union with that GAM, the money is what stands out to me. You know, the money turns to a monster. Wait, that's not the lyrics. The money turned me to a monster. You know
Meek
that
Mill.
song, Tyler.
I like that.
Listen, Meek Mill said it best. But look, I read this and I was like, great for Andres, but also great for the union. Clearing out a little space, getting your finances in order. As we were just talking about mortgage CS, this is a great way to get your finances in order, that you get guaranteed $650,000 in GAM and then up to $800,000 in allocation money possible, depending on if those conditions are met. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching is all I heard.
Garber
that
bucks,
you
baby.
now can have some more finances in your pocket to spend on somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, like, this is a deal where I think the union kind of went out because they can still make a profit off of this for a situation where, let's face it, the union made a mistake, in all honesty, because honestly don't know what they expected from Andres Pereira, because Andres Pereira has always played as more of an attacking style of midfielder, and it just wasn't the right fit here in Philadelphia, which is why he got loaned out halfway through the season, which, as we talked about before, may have bit them in the butt a little bit, but I think this works. This move bodes Andres. It bodes the Philadelphia Union. The union gets some money back. And of course, we talked about the incentives where they could make that profit there if Andres does reach those incentives there. And then for Andres, he goes to a place for NYC where they actually do want him. They want to play him. He was part of that rotation last year. He wasn't a consistent starter, but he got the rotation minutes there. And it's just unfortunate. And it kind of just, it was a reminder that Ernst is not perfect. He's still got room to improve. And of course, this is an important all-season, like we mentioned, because you don't want to do this. You don't want to have to, a year later, send out a player that you thought was going to be here part of depth. So, Andres, we got to send a parcero out of Philly. Why can't we get parceros in Philly? Come on. But, I wish him nothing but the best. I think New York fits him a little bit better as far as play style. And the union can make, like you said, they make Garber bucks out of it.
Yeah, and I like that aspect of it. Financially, it makes complete sense to me. Like, as we talked about, Andres Pereira did not work out here in Philly. And so why even try to figure out, I don't know what you try to bring him back this year, see if magically, he's gotten better and makes more sense for the team. And I wouldn't be opposed to this for a couple other guys, to be frank. That maybe there are some other players that Ernst Tanner brought in, someone like a Joaquin Torres that doesn't really fit. And it might be time to make a move on. Even someone like Matt Real, he needs to be healthy. He needs to be able to contribute. Maybe it's time to start shopping some of these other players out for money. You get some GAM out of them. You get some money that now that in that allocation money you can reallocate to someone that is a better fit. So when the news broke, I instantly thought, to be honest, I would not be surprised, I should say, if we see a signing from the Philadelphia Union within the next week or so. After this move, I felt like this was kind of the opening of space. We heard the Kai Wagner news drop last week. We talked about that. That felt like the first domino. This feels like the next domino on pace to possibly getting finally something for the Philadelphia Union, because I do think that it's very tactical. There's more to this trade than just doing what's best for Andres Pereira. Okay. In my opinion, I'm not sure, guys. I don't know who it's going to be. It could even be a homegrown. I don't know what that signing's going to be, but I would not be surprised if we do within the next week get some sort of a deal, especially now that preseason started. We know they've got friendlies coming up. The team is starting to come into form, and I think they want to lock in on one more signing soon. So that's my guess, JP.
Yeah, no, I think Trav, man, I'm on those lines there. I think that was the domino I thought was going to fall here today or by today. It hasn't. We haven't gotten that news here. But I don't think Pereira was one of those dominoes. I think the union had set in stone the minute that loan deal was made with NYCFC. If NYC wants him, we'll make it happen. And I think that's exactly what happened. I think more so we got to wait for what happens with Bedoya. We know what's going to happen with Carranza. He's going to stay here till July, more than likely. So I think that the selling pieces are done for the union. Listen, knock on wood, the buying season starts now. I do think that does start with Bedoya there. And yes, Jose, Bolivian may be the better fit, and we're looking forward to hopefully you breaking some type of signing news. But it's I think that the buying period now will begin here for the union.
I think so. I think part of it is the union don't spend a lot of money. But as bargain shoppers and as a bargain shopper myself, I could say you have to be smart about how you're spending money. You want to maximize it. So I know Jose saying some of that salary freed up from Pera is going to help pay for Kai's new salary. Yes, but also as they're making these moves, it's bigger picture, to try to make sure you can buy or move around, I should say, to be able to spend less and get more, because that's the way that the union like to operate. So I would not be surprised at all if we get some sort of, listen, I'm not saying it's a big signing, which I would love to have happen, but I would not be surprised if we get a signing of some sort. I know Ali Bedoya has been brought up. We still don't know what's going to happen with Ali Bedoya. I know last show I mentioned to you with preseason getting started that I kind of expected if they were going to bring Ali Bedoya back, this would be the time that they would sign him, because preseason's getting started and you want to get him going right with, with the team from the jump. But we'll see. We will see. I don't know. It's
I mean, listen, I listen, for as far as with Dan's comment here, I mean, the Bedoya signing is just more so for the dressing room. I think at this point, you're not really bringing him back to be that box-to-box midfielder every single match. You're bringing him here for the dressing room, but I think depth still needs to be addressed here. Like I talked about before.
He'd be a great depth piece.
Like, but besides Bedoya, I do think that they need to think past Bedoya still. Like, Bueno might take that right shuttle midfielder position, which I think he deserves. But besides that, who do you trust to be put in there? On the other side, you got Jack and Leon, which you can interchange. At the 6, you could put Jesus there. You could put El Brujo there. But now you're stretching.
That's just 4 names in 3 spots.
Now you're stretching Jesus Bueno. That's to my point. I think you do need to find another piece here in the midfield. My preference, again, someone that's under 20, the under 23 range, who can be a cheaper buy. That union money, as Ernst loves to do here. Find that piece that's a bargain piece. Still room to development, but I know a lot. I know, and it's like the comment section is all on the same page, which I do love. But I don't think they're going to make that big signing, guys. I just don't think at least this period. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I know Tribeman saying he doesn't see any problem with Blake as a captain and no Bedoya.
Sure.
I do think in general the overall leadership is moving on. It's Andre Blake, it's Jacob Glesnes, but I do think Ali Bedoya would be a great role player off the bench piece. Still would be a nice leader in that sense. But you still, as you mentioned, have 4 midfielders without Ali Bedoya. So you cannot go into this season with 4 midfielders. And you need to have at least 2, definitely someone that's young, that can help give you good minutes. You need to add more midfield presence. Now, there have been some discussions of some names that have bounced around. But first, let us tell you about Bagels & Co., because they're a great spot to be able to get the best bagels. They have a lot of different options, variety. What I enjoy about them, it's fresh. You can have 15 and 20 different bagels that they have there on site to allow you to get the taste of New York bagels right here in your backyard in Philly. It's that mom and dad pop. Oh my Lord. Mom and pop shop feel. Words, guys, words. Mom and pop shop feel right here in Philly, but providing you with so many large, fresh bagels, as well as over 30 different cream cheeses. I did not even know it was possible to have that many cream cheeses until I connected with Bagels & Co. So they do a great job, breakfast, lunch, or dinner, providing you with breakfast sandwiches and bagels and options that you can get over at Bagels & Co. So I definitely recommend you check them out. You can head over to their website at bagelsandco.com to find a location near you. And over at Bagels & Co., they do a fantastic job of just giving you the best right here for a great price, nice and convenient, that you can make sure you're kicking off your meals with some delicious breakfast sandwiches, lunch sandwiches, pork roll and egg sandwiches,
I like
and
that.
then their lovely cream cheeses. They've got holiday and festive cream cheeses. They've got teams and sports specific ones. So Philly sports cream cheeses, Flyers, I almost said the E team. That E word. Sixers, Union, Phillies. They've got all the cream cheeses that you might want, made with Philly love. Great price right here at Bagels & Co. Again, Brooklyn style bagels made in Philly for the great price for you.
That's right. And of course, guys, with that, let's also talk about our friends over at Game Time, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, the E word's done, but hey, it's Sixers and Flyers season. What better way to get tickets than with the Game Time app? Stressful buying is no longer a thing. And you don't have to just go for Sixers and Flyers. We also have concert and all different type of events. So download the free app right now, the Game Time app. And with your first purchase, use the promo code you see here on the screen. If you're listening in It's PHLY. You'll get $20 off your first purchase. Again, the promo code is PHLY, $20 off your first purchase. Thank you to our friends over at the Game Time app, and make sure you guys check them out. Concert season around the corner too, guys. Just saying.
Yes. So I know, Jose, you're dropping news in the chat. Haven't had a chance to read up on that, so I'm not even going to dive deep into that until after the show. But thank you for sharing that update. I'm trying to avoid, because I did this before with Jock Peterson and the Phillies, and we were trying to share the news.
Oh, and Jock was trolling
and
us.
had a chance to read it yet. So I'm going to wait until I have a chance to read that, because we also have other news to get into. Plus, we've got our special guest getting ready to join us that I have been chatting with. So she's excited and ready to join us, and should be on shortly. I don't know if she's there yet, but we'll wait. So listen, we've got so many other things going on. First, I want to hit on, before we talk about Christian Pulisic, for anybody that was curious, let's step outside the MLS for a moment. Let's talk Mbappe. Kylian Mbappe continues to always be a name that every club is shopping for. Everybody's interested in.
The Union, or?
No, except for the Union, of course, because they can't afford him. Now, Mbappe, there's been rumors, as always, because he's got less than 6 months left on his PSG contract. And so now everyone's wondering, is he going to stay with PSG? Is he going to go somewhere else? Of course, Real Madrid had been a front runner for Mbappe, and they had been tossing out some deals that they were interested in bringing Mbappe in. They had, of course, already missed out on Mbappe back in 2022, weren't trying to make that same mistake. But allegedly, they still missed out this time around, because the 25-year-old, even though his contract ends in 6 months, PSG, as of today, prior to the show, reportedly offered Mbappe just a lovely over $108 million per season contract in an attempt to keep him with PSG. The official number, it's $100 million in euros. It crosses over and converts to like $108,740,500. It's just a lot. I had to count the commas. I'm like, what is all this? It's a lot of numbers. It's a lot of zeros. And Mbappe, who one of the best players in the world, gets a beautiful, beautiful offer from PSG. We haven't heard officially that he's taking that deal. They just offered him that deal to keep him.
He's probably something along those lines, though.
You think he's staying there for that 108?
That may be really
million?
tough. The thing is that we have to remember, like, this is a kid who grew up with Real Madrid. I think it was Ronaldo's poster in his room. Real Madrid always will do whatever they can to get the biggest stars in the game on their team. And like, when you're Mbappe, like, how do you not like see them? Like, think like, yeah, but Real can pay me, and it's Real Madrid. Like, it's a hard no. Like, PSG has created a power within its own right within the last decade and a half, but it's never going to be Real Madrid. You're never going to have that lure like Real has. And obviously, you know, he's from France, and playing for the biggest club in your home country is always special. But I mean, when you're talking about that, Los Blancos, I mean, it's going to be hard for Mbappe to say no. I mean, like, that's ridiculous. What's Mahomes making, like, what, like $63 million a year playing for the Chiefs?
Yeah,
something like that?
I need to look up the numbers, because that $108 million per season is a very nice deal. Yeah. So yeah. I need to actually compare that to like where that stacks up against others. But that's up there. But that's like very high up there.
If you think about it now, that we're kind of turning the page on like world soccer, and like, you know, the Ronaldo Messi era is like kind of like dwindling away. Like Mbappe, maybe Haaland, or like the future of our sport. Those are our faces. So, I mean, like, playing for Real Madrid, that would make sense.
They may have fallen short of FIFA Player of the Year under one and only Messi. But when Lionel Messi gets that next step and he's done playing, I think Mbappe is ready to step in and fill his shoes. But we've got a great guest ready to step in and join us now, because let's continue talking about the rest of the soccer world outside of just the MLS. We've got joining us now, dear friend and great writer with The Guardian, Men in Blazers, and ESPN, Meg Swanick, who's also a Philly lady right here, just like us. Hey. Welcome, Meg. Nice to have you here. Oh no, are you unmuted? Okay, wait. I think we had a muting problem.
Am I here? Can you hear me?
Yes, there we go. Okay.
There we go. How's it going, guys? Good to see you.
Great. How are you? Welcome. Nice to have you here on PHLY Union Podcast. So
yeah, it's good to be here.
Yes, we were talking about Mbappe, but we're going to continue talking about some of the superstars around the world. Christian Pulisic. Now, I know everyone's ears were ringing in the MLS world because I know mine were when I heard him come out with a comment just on Monday saying how, before he calls it a career, he absolutely would love to have a chance to play in the MLS and talking about how much the league has grown and how much he would love to be a part of it. Of course, he grew up right here in Pennsylvania, in Hershey, I should say. But for that, it made me excited because he's one of those names when you talk about big names coming to the MLS that many would get excited for. Do you think we could see a Christian Pulisic move to the MLS sooner than later? What were your thoughts even when you heard this quote come out?
Well, I think first of all, it does not surprise me at all that at some point he wants to play in Major League Soccer. I think that, he hasn't before. He's been in Europe for about a decade first, going to Dortmund, developing there, starting his professional career there, then moving to Chelsea, winning Champions League, falling on a bit of hard times in the past year that he spent there, and then moving to AC Milan. So for someone who's just 25 years old, it feels like he's been in Europe forever. And I think that he is somebody who, for various reasons, really cares about the development of the game domestically, even though he hasn't played in the top flight here. So it doesn't surprise me at all that at some point he wants to come back here. I don't get the sense that it's going to be sooner rather than later, unfortunately, for anybody who might be hoping that we'll see him signing with Jim Curtin's Philadelphia Union sometime in the near future. I think we're going to have to hold out hope for that to happen. When is he going to come back, I think is a big question. As I said, he's only 25 years old. And in the interview that he just gave this past Monday, he seemed to hint that he feels like he has a lot left to tick off, a lot left to achieve abroad in Europe. And at the very least, we're going to be waiting until after this 2026 Home World Cup, I think, to see him come back.
That's going to be the big one for sure. Let's stay with USMNT, Meg. I wanted to look at Colorado real quick because they made some interesting signings here, bringing back two USMNT players, Jordy Mihalovic and Zach Steffen here. Just kind of your thoughts on it. Obviously, these are players who we had high aspirations for, and for some they may look at it as a step back. What are your thoughts on them coming back to MLS?
I think that there is, especially in this transfer window, and when you look at how Major League Soccer is increasing, investing more, trying to bring in more stars, grow the reputation of the league successfully, I think, as well. And then you look at the state of the national team. We're in this kind of strange period where there's a lot of debate about where we want players to be playing, where they're going to succeed, what it means to succeed. Are they successful if they're coming back domestically versus going abroad? And for me, I think it all depends on the player, while saying I appreciate players who do go abroad and try to fend their way in different leagues. Jordy Mihalovic, he was really killing it in MLS. He was, a really standout in the position that he was in. He was getting looks from the national team. He decided to try his hand in the Netherlands. It was difficult for him. He was in a tough situation. He wasn't in a team where his position he could get playing time. So he's coming back to Colorado Rapids. I think that some people see that as a step back or a disappointment, but for me personally, I don't at all. And I think that this is a really wise move for him in the progression of him as an individual player. I wouldn't write him off in his move to Colorado. I think it's good for him specifically in where he was. Similarly, but a little bit different, Zach Steffen. So I think he signed with Manchester City in 2019 from Columbus for a little bit of a chunk of money at the time, relatively. He kind of has appeared in cup games when he was with Manchester City, but really got his big looks and goal when he was on loan in Germany, and then when he was with Middlesbrough last year. I think injuries are something that for him has really obstructed his ability to break in or really develop. I think that, maybe Manchester City, and this is no knock on anyone, was maybe a step above what he was really um, capable of, and that's who Manchester City is going to be above most players. So I think that he struggled to really find a situation where he was the guy, he was getting minutes, he was the starting goalkeeper, and was able to build confidence, winning titles in that position. And so there's actually Jonathan Tannenwald of the Philadelphia Inquirer, our fellow Philadelphian, or I guess he's a native DC person. He would probably recoil. He's not a native Philadelphian, but he is stuck with us. He just put out an article talking to Zach Steffen about his decision to come back. And it's a combination of things. It's what we just said, wanting stability, I think, more than anything, wanting to be that starting keeper, wanting to win things, and then also just family, wanting to be at home. And you can't blame someone for being abroad for, I think, maybe six or so years it was for Stefan, and then wanting to be back in the States and seeing what he can do in Major League Soccer.
Yeah, you bring up a great point about just the way that a lot of players' careers kind of go, as you talked about with Pulisic specifically. 2016, as he's 17 years old when he makes his Bundesliga debut with Dortmund. Zach Steffens, another name that actually just came out that we've been talking about before the show that JP and I wanted to hit on. Cavan Sullivan, younger brother of Quinn Sullivan, who now reports out of the UK are saying Manchester City's a front runner in the race to try to sign him. He's 15 years old and already is getting a lot of interest from other clubs across Europe. But we've seen this trajectory of a lot of players where they go and play in Europe or other countries for a number of years. Brennan Aronson, obviously, as a great example from out of the Union's camp, but a lot of players across soccer that do that. And then when they get older, make that switch to the MLS when they're looking for that stability or maybe in the declining years of their career. So, I guess my question is, what do you think, as much as the MLS has grown, is going to help the MLS become the league where players can stay? I know the financial side's a big part, but there's other factors as well that keeps the talent in the MLS instead of them needing to go play internationally and then come back in later years, just from your experience and perspective.
I think that it's something that could happen down the road. I think, again, it's always going to be situational for players. When it comes to the Christian Pulisics of the world, I think we're a long way out, personally, from a situation where they're going to choose staying domestically versus the Premier League or versus Champions League football, at least in their prime. Again, Christian Pulisic, he wants to come back. He wants to play in Major League Soccer. He wants that impact that he knows his, star power, for lack of a better word, would have on the domestic scene here. But I think that for national team players or for individuals who are that talented, they want to play with the best players and they want to play in the top leagues. So I think until Major League Soccer can be seen as a top 5 league, we're going to see the most talented choose to start their career or play part of their career abroad. Now, could Major League Soccer one day be a top 5 league? Personally, I do think so. Where it sits now is highly up for debate. Do I think it will be the number 1 league in the world? I don't really think so, actually. But I do think it could be up there. And if it was in the higher echelons, I think that we would see more people staying domestically. But by no means is it not a high caliber league. And I think it'll always depend a little bit on the player and be a combination of things.
Megan, let's talk real quick about, let's say, on the Union here. So obviously last year it was a little bit fatiguing as a fan. It was very long for the entire league, obviously. Disappointing end, controversial end as well. But, obviously in 22, they were in the MLS Cup final. So in 24, for you personally, what do you see the Union need to do in order to get back to the MLS Cup final?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I was talking to someone about this recently, especially with the Eagles just flailing defeat last night. It feels like every Philadelphia sports team, or a lot of them anyway, had a season where they were right there. They were in the World Series, they were in Game 7, they were in the championship, and then just at the on the smallest margin lost it. And I think that there was a feeling that all of these teams the next season were going to come back. They were going to be right there. They were going to take it and actually win it this time. And actually, all of them regressed a little bit, it felt like. So I think with the Union specifically, making it to the championship and then not, coming up short of any of the trophies. I think they had 5 different trophies. They came close to, relatively. They didn't do that well in the playoffs this year, but they came close, within reach of a few different trophies last season. I think a few different things are going to be important for taking that next step toward collecting one of those trophies. I do think that they need more depth. I think that we thought we had depth last season that we didn't actually have in key positions. And then when we were playing all these different tournaments, we had all these different responsibilities. People were getting injured. We weren't making the substitutions maybe when we did have some people there in depth. I think that was a major piece. So, I think Daniel Gazdag is being rumored. Who knows what's going to happen? I think that this staying on top of who could be leaving and making sure we are replacing and also building depth pieces behind them is going to be essential to a good season this season. Next to that, I would say just a little bit, and we started to see this last year, but perhaps evolving a little bit of what we are able to throw at other teams, reacting in game to changing what we're doing in the middle of the game. I think that maybe we became a little bit predictable sometimes for teams. They knew what they were going to see from us. So that's something I think we started to see a little bit more from my perspective over the course of the last season. But I would say depth and flexibility of approach.
Which are exactly the same things that we've talked about here. So clearly we all get it. And let's hope that the team also gets that as well and can implement these changes. My last question for you, Megan, before we let you go is, as you hit on, and we talked about it before, the rumors have come out around Daniel Gazdag. We heard the rumors last week, Willian and Gazdag's quote saying that he's hoping to make a big career move by July. Of course, now the signing of Kai Wagner coming back. Ali Bedoya is still a question mark. Nobody knows if the Union are going to bring him back next year or officially let him walk. A lot of question marks about what this team's going to look like next year. And as you talked about the regression of Philly sports, something that I feel like has been a consistent theme is the inability to have a change in personnel, where part of that regression, in my opinion, came from bringing back the exact same group, running it back, expecting a different outcome. The Union need to change some sort of personnel, some sort of aspect. In your opinion, what does that look like? With Kai now being signed, who do you think is most important of maybe Daniel Gazdag, Kylian, and even Ali to bring back this upcoming season, and versus who do you think might need to make that change to bring in somebody new, for a new face, a new culture, a new person just in general for the vibe of the Union?
It's a really difficult question because I think that we really need to be bringing in new faces in a couple of positions. I have so much respect for Ali Bedoya as a captain for what he's given to the sport in this country, the national team, the Philadelphia Union. I mean, he has a place. I think he should be brought back. But I think that minutes wise or on field wise, I do think that the midfield needs a little bit of evolution there. So I think that that is actually one position where I think that maybe we need to be moving on and evolving to someone else being the guy in that role. And then the striker positions, both of them potentially, I think that those are where we're going to need new faces sooner rather than later. Not wait to even see if Daniel Gazdag is leaving now or Willian and Gazdag want to. It's just a matter of when with him. So I think that we desperately need to have wisely chosen strikers that are going to deliver. I know that that's easier said than done, but we really need that position. And then I would say that a little bit of evolution in the midfield. I'm not willing to move away from anyone in the back line, and definitely not in the goalkeeper position anytime soon. So I'm going to say a little bit in the midfield and the strikers.
Okay. All right. My last question, Mike, I want to just do some early predictions here of the Eastern Conference. So a lot of people still predict the Union to be the top of the Eastern Conference. A lot of people obviously predicting Inter Miami here as well. Do you have a dark horse in the Eastern Conference that may compete here at the top?
Ooh.
That's really difficult. Yeah, I guess Inter Miami can't be anybody's dark horse. I do agree that they're going to be near the top. I do think the Philadelphia Union will be in that contention as well. I think NYCFC are going to be pretty good this year. I have a feeling. I know that I'm not supposed to say that to anyone who pays attention to them, but it's fun when they're good and we get to play them and it becomes tense. So I think NYCFC is going to be good. The Revs, I think, are going to be really interesting to watch. So I guess if dark horse, maybe one that's not being named at present that I think could be good this year, I'm going to say NYCFC. What do you think? No?
I agree with. I could see that. I wasn't thinking MIC. I could see the Revs though. That's a really good one. But NYCFC has been making some moves here and there.
They're making some sneaky signings that you're not like sure if that's gonna be good players. So when that happens with NYC, they're gonna be some good players.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've been pretty quietly active. So I could see that actually. I could see that. But Meg, we appreciate you so much for taking time out of your Tuesday to join us here on the show and to weigh in on some thoughts. I know we could talk forever, especially we're gonna have to have you back on FIFA's all the rankings, the Guardian's rankings. I would love to pick your brain on those because I've got some thoughts, as I know you do too, on players that should not be on those top player lists. But as always, you're doing a fantastic job in all your soccer coverage. So thanks for taking out time to share some of that insight with us.
Yeah, guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
No problem. Make sure you guys give Meg a follow on Twitter. She's doing a fantastic job. Again, she's working with The Guardian, Men in Blazers, ESPN. Her handle is Meg_Swanick with 1 N. And honestly, there's so much soccer to talk all the time that it's great when you can have a chance to just kind of like cross over from league to league and talk about it.
It's always fun.
That's why I got excited when Christian Pulisic's quote came out, and I want to just reread that for anybody because if you didn't hear the news, I want to make sure you get the full quote because as Jillian was saying, because Jillian's someone from Lancaster who would love for Pulisic to come home eventually. Glad he's found a good spot at AC Milan, yes, but we love for him to come home. So Pulisic was saying in his quote, now that I lost it, here you go. It's, absolutely he wants to play in the MLS, and it's come a long way from when I first started almost 10 years ago when I moved to Europe, as we were talking about with Meg. Of course, then that was when he was 17 years old in 2016, making his career start there. So he said, where the game has come in the U.S. from then, even MLS to where it is now, I've seen a massive change just as far as the support in the U.S. Getting behind the national team and even the clubs, and now seeing Messi in Miami, and he, of course, went on to say other things, but it's bigger than just the growth in the MLS. Yeah. It's been a growth in U.S. soccer on the men's and women's side. I know the NWSL just had their draft this past Friday, which was awesome to see how they had the live draft. And it's just giving more of that professional experience. And I always tell people one of the biggest things I noticed. So when I was coming out in 2014 and it was the second year of the NWSL and obviously a whole different time in the MLS, it wasn't professional. Right. It wasn't a professional experience. You felt like you were playing just on like a women's league team or a men's league team. And now the MLS and the NWSL financially have had the revenue supporting. They've got more commercials. You see their players and their faces more, where you have a chance to kind of get to know them, whether through social media or appearances or TV spots and making spots on like appearances on shows, whatever it is, references to them much more. They're in the conversation, which is allowing them to compete and take that next step of being a league that is at least able to attract someone like Messi, Marta, the best of the best. But in order for them to take that next step, there's still some in-betweens that are needed. So someone like Cavan Sullivan, who we've talked about before and we're mentioning early in the show, when you hear those reports that Captain America, as he's been nicknamed, born in just 2009, which is wild because where were we in 2009? I was about to go to college. That he's got European clubs, Manchester City, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Dortmund, PSG, others that are after little Sullivan. And he's so young, but he's ready to take that next step. And it reminds me a lot of a Christian Pulisic. I know in the chat people are saying he's not going to get any, we're not going to see him with the Philadelphia Union. Really if he's got these offers, and I'm sure there's great money behind it, probably will not see him with the Union. But it still was like another talented player from our backyard that we could see going to take that next step with a European club.
Yeah. I mean, and think about it, like if Christian Pulisic was coming up now, he probably would have been in the Union Academy easily.
And then he would be Cavan Sullivan.
Yeah, literally.
Because he probably would go play with a European club still.
I think the Union are going to try everything possible to keep him. But like you just said, the teams, Renee, like how do you say no? And like the thing is how much these teams actually value Cavan, right? Because if they're just throwing like chump change, you're like, no, why would we just give you just because you're Real Madrid? We're not going to give you for pennies on the dime. So like it's going to be tough, but there's going to be some numbers thrown at Cavan. That's going to be hard for the Union to say no. Mm-hmm. I think they're going to try everything possible to keep him here, to try at least bring him to the first team, at least get him here to like 18. But it's just going to be so tough. He's so technically sound at such a young age. Mm-hmm. And European teams, when they see that, they're going to bounce on that right away. So we shall see. But it's interesting.
I'm excited to see the point that he gets to where we know how to say his first name. Because I've heard Cavan. I heard a couple other pronunciations, but that family, the soccer family, obviously Quinn is the oldest. They've also got twin brothers that are in between. shout out to their parents who have done a great. Their dad's name's actually Brendan, ironically enough, which I thought was kind of cute. But they are just a fantastic soccer family. I would hope that maybe Quinn might be able to help
Entice him a little bit,
sway him here, because listen, now you get to learn from your brothers and your actual brother on how to be a professional athlete and getting that transition in with help and guidance. And as a younger sister that got to play with her older sisters, it does help. It's a very cool thing, full circle, to get to play with your older siblings at a high level.
For sure.
So maybe we have a little bit of a X factor there that they don't have, because Quinn is here. He's not there.
So I just want to bring this up because this was the report. So this was reported by Philip Kessler and Jack on here. So at the end of this tweet that we saw here, so it is said that the agency Wasserman has already informed interest clubs that they are out of the race. So pretty much all the clubs that you mentioned are out except for Manchester City, because they're the latest one to throw the report out there. So looks like they're trying to keep him here as long as possible. Also, too, keep in mind that, going over there is such a wild card. Like, it worked for Pulisic to go there at such a young age.
17 is still so young.
Yeah, your body's developing, your mind is developing. You got to go over there, go into a completely different environment, possibly learn a new language. That's really tough. Not everyone can go through that. Let's be honest. So for Cavan, why not continue your development here? Leave at like 19 or 20 when you're more mature.
Yeah,
I think that's the best, and I think hopefully that's what his support group is thinking about as well, because that's a tough move for any 17-year-old, 16-year-old kid to do.
And he started at 14 with going around traveling to visit Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, Dortmund. He started visiting different clubs at a young age. It's just it's wild to think about at 14, 15, when you are a sophomore in high school, that you're getting opportunities to go play in a whole different country, a whole different culture and environment, as you mentioned. And for his family, they do still have, Quinn's the oldest, but he's about to be he's 19. I think their twin brothers are like 17, 16. So
crazy.
You've got young kids in that sense. I don't know what Christian Pulisic's family dynamic is or what they were able to do to support him, but to me, that probably is a factor. And the Tribe Man's comment before we wrap up, can you imagine if the Union brought back all the alums?
We should do that starting 11.
I was gonna say the same.
We should do that starting 11.
You know what, Tribe Man, you might be onto something. I think we need to actually look at.
They still
have
to play though. They still have to be playing anywhere in the world.
I want to take a look at all the former Union players that are still playing. Let's get them all on paper and let's put it together starting 11.
I like that.
Maybe even as soon as Thursday. I don't know if we're going to turn around that fast. But Trav, man, you just helped us figure out our next show, because there are so many talented players that came from either the Union or even just the academy side.
For sure.
Can you imagine? Wow.
Absolutely.
It's exciting to think about.
That would definitely be fun.
That would be. So we will, of course, have to have more of these conversations, do some more deep dives. We've got some other segments coming away as well here on PHLY Union Podcast. We appreciate you guys so much for tuning in. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button and also checking out our special guest for today, Meg Swanick's content that she's got, all the writing she's doing for ESPN, The Guardian, Men in Blazers, on all of her great soccer coverage. And for all of us here, be safe today on this icy cold Tuesday here in the Philadelphia area, wherever you're joining from. And we'll see you guys back Thursday, 3:30 p.m. Eastern time for more Philadelphia Union and soccer updates here on PHLY Union Podcast. See you guys.
We all silly like the mayor.